So about 15 minutes has passed now. We've mixed up quite a few more tubs as well, just to make sure that we've got enough here to do the video. You should leave your mix rest for about 15 minutes anyway, because that allows all the elements within the base mix to hydrate. So I've got a couple of buckets here. I have said in the previous videos that you should have a smaller bucket to decant into. That's really relevant when you're working outdoors and you're mixing in one area and then you're potentially having to carry heavy tubs to where your mould is. Here, because I've got a tabletop, I can just tip the larger tubs into the mould. So I'm not going to use the small buckets today, but it's a good tip for you when you're doing your project. So literally just going to get my hands in there and pour the mix in, making sure that it's flowing and it's reaching all the parts of the mould. What you might find is the odd lump here or there. Just get it between your fingers and give it a good crush and make sure it's nicely mixed in. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. As long as you've got your gloves on, your hands aren't going to get into contact, or your skin's not going to get into contact with the mix. So get your hands in there and enjoy the process. Make sure that you're filling the trough up around the mould first. That's really quite important. You kind of want to fill the mould from the bottom up, and that will give any air trapped in the mix enough time to dissipate from the lowest parts of the mould. What you'll find is as you pour the mix into the mould, it stiffens up quite quickly. So it flows as it goes in, but then it stiffens up straight away. Now, a good tip is if you're doing your project in the middle of summer and it's a hot day, then the water that you put into your mix should be cold. So straight out the hose pipe, straight out the tap, let it run, let it get nice and cool. And if you're doing it in the middle of winter, and it's particularly cold and you're doing the project outside, just to give the chemical reaction a bit of a kickstart, you might want to add a bit of hot water to your water just to increase the temperature. Right, so that's one tub in. Let's get the next one in. And I'm going to get most of it in, but it looks like we're not far off now, completely filling the mould. So just going to be a little bit more careful. There's a lump there, just give that a squeeze. Use the edge forms to give you an idea of how full it is. It self-levels anyway. That'll give you an idea. Keep moving the mix around. Make sure it's evenly distributed. Okay, so we're not far off now. We're still going to need a little bit more mix. Here and there you can see the white of the melamine. Now, if you've got any questions whilst I'm doing this and whilst you're watching the video, please pop them in the comment box and we'll come back to you as soon as possible. And if you are enjoying our video series, please first of all subscribe to our channel, like the video so that we know we're doing the right thing, and also click the bell icon, and that will let you know when we upload another video. So this is the third tub now. I know I'm definitely not going to need all of it, so just going to stick a little bit in, move it around, and then I'm going to use my straight edge to make sure it's level all the way across. Still a little bit more required. So as near as damn it there. Now I'm going to change my gloves and I'm going to use the straight edge just to run over the top and make sure that everything's nice and smooth and leveled out. Okay, so I've changed my gloves and I've got my trusty straight edge. My gloves will get dirty again, I will need to change them, but I'm just going to run this over the top and just make sure that we've got everything level. Now if you're a little bit over in places, don't worry about that too much at this stage, because there's still quite a bit of air that will need to come out of the mix. But just using this action, as you can see, I'm not leaving any lines anywhere. It's almost just agitating it really, just to get it flowing again and making sure that it's leveling out. Okay, so we're pretty much there. Just go right to the corner. What you'll end up with is you'll always end up with a high spot in front of your straight edge, but almost straight away that's settling out. Now you will get the odd defect here and there. You will get a few bubbles coming up to the surface. Any dry spots, so I've got a little bit there, bit of dry mix. We want to get rid of those, but the bubbles we're not too worried about. They will go. I think that's pretty much it. So what we're going to do now is move over to the worktop section that we've made, and we're going to fill that up in much the same way. So here we are at the worktop mould. I've got the remainder of the mix from the tabletop that we were doing. Don't be afraid if it stiffens up a little bit to get in there and give it a mix. Don't be afraid to use your electric mixer again just to give it a blast, because it does self-consolidate and it will get stiffer. So just give it an agitation and it will come back to life. So again, just going to watch that. Start off with the lowest point, so straight into the lip. Let the mix do the work and just help it along a little bit. make sure it's pushed down into the lip. That's that part done. So same again. I've got about half the mix in there, and I'm just going to dump the rest in. Now, an important tip when you are casting is to ensure that when you are pouring your concrete in, that you are pouring your mix onto an area that's already had mix put onto it. If you were to put mix in one section and then mix in another section, and where they meet, they just won't mesh properly. So if you go on top of where you've already poured, you can ensure that it will mix in homogeneously. So I'm just trying to get everything covered now, so that when I do put the next part of the mix in and completely fill it up, then I know I'm going on top of concrete that I've already poured. Now, if you remember, we put 2 screws in the back of the mould when we were building it, and they're very useful when it comes to casting, so that you can see whether you've reached your level or not. I think we're pretty much there at the back. There's just the very tip of the screw heads that are showing, and then looking at the edges of the melamine, it's only a little bit of white showing, so I think we're pretty much there around the edges as well. Maybe a little bit more in that corner, and maybe a little bit more in the far corner. Move this mix out of the way so you can see what's going on. So it's a warm day today, and as you can see, it's stiffening up. Again, giving it a quick agitation will bring it back to life. I'm going to do the same as I did before with a straight edge, except this time I'm going to use the screw heads for my level. So I know that if I put my straight edge on the screw head at the back and just move it around, I can see that it's pretty much level across the mould. It's a little bit more difficult to agitate the mix using the edge forms like I did with the tabletop mould. So I'm just literally going to use this to make sure I'm at a level across the board. Then I'm just going to take the straight edge and just gently agitate it across the mix to try and take the lines out. Now I'm going to keep doing this for a couple more minutes, and then we'll come back and see where we are. Okay, so I've gone back and forth over it a couple of times now. I've got it about as level as I can do. It's beginning to skin over on top, which is a good sign. It means the reaction is taking place. It's sticking less to my glove now, so any little bits that you're not happy with, just give them a little bit of a pinch and a pat, and that should just get rid of them. You're never going to get it completely blemish free, but that's the beauty of the cast in place mix, is that it is a more traditional texture. So before we go any further, we need to remove these screws that we used for our reference point at the back. There's one there. So just get rid of that. And hopefully I can find it. There it is. And that's leveled out again pretty much straight away. Quick tap. Notice when it disappeared. Now you will have the odd bubble pop up here and there. Don't worry about those. They will pop and disappear. Okay, so I'm happy with that now. We're going to leave this and come back to it every half an hour or so, and then when it's firm enough, we're going to trowel it nice and smooth.